And on that cool October morning, I arrived at the start, which is at the entry ramp to the Verrazano Narrows Bridge in Staten Island, with some 15,000 other runners. They're now 51,000, I believe, and got ready to run through all 5 boroughs of New York City to the finish line in Central Park in Manhattan. 26.2 miles, or for you, 42.2 kilometers. And yes, the .2 matters. I decided to take the advice I'd been given to start behind the rest of the pack. That way you can't start out too fast, which you might do with all the excitement, and then burn out too soon. So I went back until I was actually really behind everybody. And it worked, because when the cannon went off, it was thrilling. I could see the helicopters overhead following the lead elite runners, and the view of Manhattan off to the side of the bridge was fabulous as I started up the ramp of the Verrazano Bridge, which is, by the way, 2 miles long and leads into Brooklyn. The other runners around me were also very excited and bursting to run. I felt like I was on cloud 9. And although I could feel the bridge pulsating with the pounding of all those feet, I hardly noticed the incline, even though it's actually the steepest hill in the whole course. Being in such a crowd did keep me from going too fast. Okay, my version of fast, which is slow. And I relaxed into a nice, comfortable jog. As I came off the bridge and onto the streets of Brooklyn, there was an almighty roar. The cheering of the crowds of people who are there to support and encourage the runners. What a burst of adrenaline that was. People lined the entire course, often 4 and 5 deep, clapping, calling out, playing music, offering water and orange slices to the runners. As I progressed through the different neighborhoods, we'd be in Brooklyn for 11 miles, it was also an ethnic tour. At first we were in Bay Ridge, the largely Italian area of Saturday Night Fever fame. I jogged steadily and happily through miles 4, 5, and 7, the Black, Hispanic, Anglo, and mixed areas, all so supportive. My parents met me at mile 8.5. They'd actually come down from upstate New York to watch, and they were going to meet me at a few places on the course, going by subway to the next spot once I went by. I also had my name printed on my t-shirt, so I got a lot of, "Go Ann, you're doing great, Ann," and so forth, prompting more than one of my fellow runners to say, "Gee, you sure know a lot of people." The personal cheering really helped. And even when I knew I didn't look very good, someone yells, "Looking good, Ann." I believed it. And it helped. A mile or 3 later, we turned a corner and suddenly there was quiet. We had come to the Orthodox Jewish area. The Satmar Hasidic men in their long black coats and big furry hats were there lining the streets too, and there were a few women and kids handing out orange slices, but they don't cheer. A little clapping maybe, but still, they're there. In another 2 miles, I started up this small bridge that would take me from Brooklyn into Queens, and which also marks the halfway point of the course. I crested the top, and a woman who had a radio called out, "Rod Dixon's won, 2:08. Rod Dixon of New Zealand had just won the race in 2 hours and 8 minutes, and here I was halfway. But it was actually thrilling, and as it was to realize that this meant that these 15,000 people were now stretched out over more than 13 miles of New York City roads. I was in Queens for only 2 miles, and as I started up the Queens side of the 59th Street Bridge, I sang the Simon and Garfunkel song to myself. It kept me going up the incline. After 15.5 miles, this incline felt a lot steeper than the Verrazano had, but I was a bit tired, but feeling groovy. Luckily, too, I'd actually practiced this bridge a few weeks earlier. 3 friends and I took a bus from Manhattan into Queens in order to run back over so that we would know what to expect. A lady on that bus, seeing us in our running gear, had asked us, "So, are you people all doing that marathon in a couple of weeks?" When we said yes, we were, she asked if we were going to win. Smiling, we said, no chance of that. "Good," she replied. "It'd be no good if you won." "Why?" I asked. "Because they give the winner a car," she said, "and if you have a car, you'll stop running, you'll just drive everywhere." Better to get exercise. Yes, New York really is one big Woody Allen movie. Now, over that bridge, I was in Manhattan, where the course turns right and heads north for nearly 4 miles. As well as the crowds lining the sidewalks and cheering, in this kind of yuppie and wealthy area, there were lots of marathon watching brunch and champagne parties in the cafes and restaurants, which all had banners and signs up to cheer the runners. A few blocks up again, I got to see my folks again, and now they had their umbrellas up. It had started raining lightly and would keep doing so for the rest of the day. The crowd actually hands out paper towels from when it's raining so you can wipe your glasses or your face. At the top of First Avenue, I headed over the Willis Avenue Bridge into the Bronx. This is mile 20, and I hit the legendary wall. My energy was depleted, and I was starting to feel tired and sluggish. A group from my running club had a table there with water, icy poles, oranges, and flat Coca-Cola in cups. One of them called out to me, "Ann, want some Coke?" and thrust a cup towards me. Because my body and my brain were no longer on speaking terms, I replied no as I took it and drank it. It was a good thing, too. It was an instant liquid sugar hit. I needed that. And that, plus the happy yelling of the guy, "Hey, you're in the South Bronx now, you better keep running," helped spur me on and over the Madison Avenue Bridge back into Manhattan. Specifically into Harlem, which had some of the best and most enthusiastic crowds and great loud music. In fact, to this day, whenever I hear Lionel Richie's All Night Long, it takes me back to running, no, actually practically dancing in the street to the boomboxes blasting that song at mile 21 and a half. Another mile and a half and I was running down Fifth Avenue. There was Central Park on my right, but the finish line was still 3 miles away on the opposite end and opposite side of the park. My friend Larry jumped in to run the last 2 miles or so with me at this point. We'd planned this, and I've been looking forward to the company and chatter to keep my mind off how I was feeling. Larry is hilarious, witty, funny. He can keep up a steady patter of jokes and comical observations, which now began to really irritate me. This was due to the fatigued state I was in. And in fact, I'd even moved to the center of the runners so that nobody could see my name. I didn't want them to cheer me personally. I just wanted everyone to shut up and leave me alone. Nearly 2 tough miles of hills and inclines later, I rounded a corner and turned right onto Central Park South. Although this stretch is only about half a mile long, it's also between miles 25 and 26, so it feels like the longest distance ever. Then finally I was turning right into Central Park, heading north towards the finish line, only a quarter or so mile away. Mom and Dad were at this corner and cheered me on. I also handed Larry the cap I'd been wearing, since he was peeling off here, and that way I could fix my hat here and be ready for my crossing the finish line photo. Yes, even. But this last quarter mile, by the way, is, in an unspeakable act of cruelty by the race planners, uphill. But it doesn't matter. It is so exciting. I could see the finish banner, the crowds, the clock, all the cheering people. I actually picked up my pace and ran. I came in under the banner at 4 hours, 17 minutes, and 58 seconds. As I walked through the chute, someone put a medal around my neck, and someone else wrapped a space blanket around me. Then I walked slowly with the other finishers towards the buses that held our gear, the lot of us looking for all the world like a moving throng of baked potatoes. I remember feeling emotional, actually almost about to burst into tears, and I had done it. It was a thrill, a high, and I loved it. And it was addictive. I actually did it again and again and again, but that's another story, or maybe 25.